So today I'm going to teach you what a statement of intent needs to have. Now this is one of the most important sections of your portfolio. This is the first section after you have your table of contents, and this is basically where you tell the marker what it is that your project is actually going to be made up of. So the marker has on average about 20 minutes to view your project and to look through your 80-page portfolio. So it's not enough to read everything, and it's not really enough to get a full view about what you want to have. So you're looking at about one A4 page in 12-point font, and really you need in there to explain the whole concept behind your piece, how it's made, why it's a difficult project, and you need them to understand kind of everything about it. So it can be a little bit difficult, and usually you really need that full page to get it done. So theoretically, all that a statement of intent needs to do is outline what you intend to produce, why you intend to make it, who it's for, so your target audience, and how you intend to make it. So really it's like what it is, why it needs to be made, and how you're gonna make it. So if you write just those things, you'll be okay. You can answer that in a page. But what I like to do first with my students, and I think it works quite well, is to start with a paragraph that kind of adds a little bit of flavor and introduces the project and gives it a space within society. So this is a movie that's kind of Star Wars fan fiction. It's like the student made a version of Star Wars of their own. And so he talks about science fiction cinema specifically, settings, characters, ideas of that. But what he wanted to do is basically create that kind of science fiction film, okay? He wanted to have an inventive twist-filled story because he felt that often science fiction cinema had pretty boring stories, like just hero's journey, monomyth sort of ideas. When we're looking at this, a student who talked about K-pop, she was talking about the interesting point being that K-pop had managed to succeed in a world that music doesn't really succeed very well anymore, okay? So she's talked about how Western bands weren't succeeding, but K-pop was. So what was it about that? Because a lot of people did not view K-pop, in her opinion, as a legitimate art form. So she wanted to educate them on the facts. So maybe at least, even if they didn't appreciate the way that K-pop sounded, they could at least appreciate it from a curiosity perspective. This person decided that she wanted to look at conspiracy theories. So she was looking at how outlandish theories can sometimes be proven true. And I still don't know whether she thought the Apollo moon landing was faked or not, but her whole project is based on the fact that the moon landing was fake. This girl wanted people to stop eating meat, but the way that she wanted to talk about it was in terms of the alternatives if we don't stop eating meat are far worse than just eating meat now. So she didn't want to push that whole vegan argument. She wanted to just give scientific facts and be like, if we don't do it, we're going to have to start doing it anyway, so we may as well start doing it now. And finally, this student wanted to play with the genre conventions of superhero movies. Okay, so deal with what happens when the hero refuses the call to action. So those are their first paragraphs. After that, we get into more of, so we've talked about like the plot and the place in the world, why it needs to get made, which is really a little bit of this middle question here, but it gives it a basis that allows you to have a deeper understanding. So it's not just like, I'm making this because it's an assessment task that I have to make for year 12, because obviously it is, but we want to kind of add a little bit more to that, all right? So after that, this student chose to go into a paragraph talking about the techniques that they were going to use. So they spent 1, 2, even 3 paragraphs talking about the techniques they were going to use and who it's for. So here he writes, once the film is complete, I'm going to upload it to YouTube for people to enjoy. He then talks about the special effects. He goes talking a little bit more than what's there, and then he even at the end puts in the 80-page portfolio. So you don't need to talk about the 80-page portfolio in your statement of intent. He's chosen to do that, so there's a bit more space at the end there because he wants to fill up that A4 page. But realistically, he's gone through quite quickly and succinctly, and that's important. You want to be succinct and not just waffle around too much. And I can help you edit that if you need to, if you send it to me. With this one, the girl talks about that again. Then we go here and she talks about what she's actually making. So she talks about how she wants it to look like an infographic with flat color and lots of detail. She wants to upload it to YouTube so it can reach the target audience, which she's talked about earlier here, the education factor. She's talked about how she's going to do it as well. So she's going to look at YouTube videos to help her. She's talked about what program she's going to use, I think, in here. Well, if she hasn't, you definitely should talk about what programs you're going to use. So if you're using After Effects, talk about After Effects and why that would benefit you more than using something like Adobe Animate, for example. In this one, she talks about the moon conspiracy theories. She talks about an animation. She talks about conspiracy theories, that she wants to make a high production film with a compelling script, okay? So you can see that even though you're answering these questions, it doesn't have to be one paragraph answer, two paragraph the next answer, third paragraph the last one, okay? But it's still, this is what I want to make. I'm going to take research to do it. What I'm going to make again is in here. Here's the programs I'm going to be used, and it works quite well. And finally, this one here, we've got what I'm going to make here, a high quality live action short film. We've got the moral quandary. We're going to say 7 to 8 short film. There's a bit of an advertising suite in here. These are the programs that they're going to use. You can update this as you go as well. We want to have a pretty good draft in place, but if things change, you are allowed to change it and you should change it, okay? When you do that, you talk about it in your potential problem section or in your record of production, which we'll talk about later. So that's a statement of intent, all right? It's marked separately as its own section by the HSC markers, so you really need to make sure that this section is as professional as it can be, all right? You really can't cut corners with this one. Okay, make sure you email me if you have any questions. Thanks very much.